For those of you that read my book Precipice and that regularly listen to this podcast, you know that I've been watching the state of the Big Apple for some time. Many of the policies pursued by its leadership, unfortunately, are those embraced by the left and are proving to be New York City's ruin, both culturally and financially. There is a topic near top of mind in the Big Apple, and that is the state of transportation. First, the subway. It's a mess. Crime, fare evasion, rodents, on and on. All these drivers create a situation where those who can avoid the subway do so, and those that must utilize the subway, they just find a way to endure it as best they can. And tied to this is the increasing cost of driving in Manhattan. Later this year, New York's going to implement what it references as congestion pricing for Midtown Manhattan. And we talked about this on prior episodes of The Far Middle. It's a blatant cash grab, one that will serve as a regressive tax on working New Yorkers and small business owners and commuters who are trying to make ends meet. The congestion pricing tax is tied to the plight of public transportation and the subway in New York. The former is needed basically to subsidize the latter. So let me explain. The Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or the MTA, it runs the buses and subways in New York City. It's the beneficiary of the congestion pricing plan. And consider this. Drivers entering Manhattan south of 60th Street could end up paying under this plan a daily driving tax of $15, which works out to $4,000 a year. Now, if you've got an easy pass, the rate drops, but you still pay a tax. And it gets worse. The MTA will have the unilateral authority to declare a gridlock alert day whenever it wants to. And under gridlock alert days, there's going to be a 25% surge on pricing that's added to the tax in the invoice. And New York State reserves the right to raise the congestion tax by 10% in 2024, which would be the very first year of the tax. Thank you very much. So let's illustrate why this is such a big deal for working New York City area residents. If you live in New Jersey and you work in Manhattan, driving in to work and out of work will result in almost $25 a day in congestion fees, which is on top of the already $17 a day in bridge and tunnel tolls. Now that works out to over $40 a day, and we didn't even get to the cost of gas and parking. Now, does that sound like a formula that's going to get more people back to work in Manhattan, to fill those vacant office buildings, and to support the struggling restaurant industry, and to breathe life into a struggling city? You think this is going to attract businesses? Of course it doesn't, and it won't. But that doesn't stop brazen public officials from touting congestion pricing as a way to solve gridlock and to improve air quality. And just think of what the MTA will be able to squander with all this newfound revenue. They need to reform and improve services. Those are going to be squashed. Failure is going to be rewarded. And the inferior transportation option will effectively be the mandated one. Now, those paying the highest price for this regressive tax are going to be the usual victims: the working poor, the underserved communities, small business owners, and middle-class workers. But expect something that should be squashed immediately under objective analysis to be something instead that is shoved down each of these stakeholders' throats in the near future. Yes, the plight of New York City might be getting worse before it gets better.